Hi guys, welcome. My name is Amanda for those of you that are new to the channel. For those of you who've been here before, welcome back again, and to friends and family, g'day. So today is going to be a sweet treat day. I have a few options that I need to make a start on in preparation for Christmas. One of them is a recipe that I've been using for about 30 years. It's not authored, so it's just a slip in the family cookbook. And they are chocolate balls, and they're similar to a rum ball, but they're not quite. They're chocolate balls. We're going to be making those. I'm also going to be doing a coffee maple Bailey's dairy-free. So there's that require dairy-free options. And so I'll be making up that as well with just 5 simple ingredients. And it's a perfect time to make that. Get that in the fridge out of the way before the merry season starts. And then I've got a few other options that I need to do. I'm wanting to do sour cream, and I want to get that started today. And I should be able to get that on today as well. Rightio, let's get going. I would like to make the Baileys, and I'm going to be making a coffee maple Baileys. Dairy-free, suitable for vegans. Pretty simple ingredients. Replacing all of the dairy. We need coconut cream. And I want a really thick coconut cream. This one's a lovely coconut cream for sauces. This one, however, is an amazing coconut cream to be using for doing things like Bailey's in substitution of a thickened cream, because this is a very thick coconut cream. I don't know why they are, they just are. And I'm sad to say this, I've only got 2 more cans of this one left, unfortunately, but I will be putting an order in, and hopefully the next batch is the same. But look how thick that is. You know, it's got to happen. Right, so that's our coconut cream. I need to get that into my container because I am going to blitz this up. We're also going to need sweetened condensed milk. Because this is dairy-free, I'm going to use the oat sweet condensed milk instead. Slightly cool morning, which means today everything seems to want to be a little bit firmer, which is fine for doing this job that I'm doing, which is to make the Baileys. So oat milk, sweetened condensed milk. And I'm just going to use the full can. We'll make up a couple of bottles of this and put it aside. And it can just mature in the refrigerator. It's pretty nice, but you know, at the back of the fridge so it doesn't get consumed. It can be used in the cheesecakes later this year though, when I do make the dairy-free cheesecake. So a teaspoon of cocoa powder. I'm going to use maple essence. If you don't have maple essence, you can just use vanilla essence. I'm substituting what was in the recipe, which was vanilla essence, and I'm substituting it for maple because I'm changing the flavour profile of this Baileys. Whiskey, whichever kind of whiskey you like. This is left over from last year's Christmas, so why not? Total amount of alcohol we need is 1 cup. I need to reserve some of this to do my nut balls as well, so I won't use all of the whiskey. That'll do for the nut balls. And then in addition to that, I'm going to add a coffee liqueur. Did you know this has been sitting here for about, I want to say 4 years, 5 years. It's well matured. Okay, in goes that. And all we got to do is blitz it together. Just going to use an immersion blender to do that, make it really simple, and just blend all those ingredients together. So that's made up just over 750 mils, which, you know, that's a decent amount when it comes to a Baileys. Alrighty, into the jars, or bottles in this case. We'll fill these guys up. And then into the refrigerator they're going to go. So that's our Baileys done. First job for the day out of the way. Into the refrigerator that's going to go. Just going to pop their lids all on. And there was enough for a little sample bottle as well. So I don't have to crack into the big bottles at all between now and Christmas for baking. That's enough for a cheesecake. And because these guys are going to be gifted, I want to seal them up completely. I've got these guys which go over the top, and I just need to heat them up. And this will completely seal the bottles. And also prevent temptation. Just need a hairdryer and just heat these little tops, and we've got a sealed product. So that's our bottles all heat sealed. ready for gifting. So let's move on to the choc nut balls. I've got in my bowl 1 cup of leftover biscuit crumbs and biscuits that normally are in the multi-packs that nobody eats, the plain biscuits. So 250 grams plus 250 grams of nuts. And I also need to add, again, another cup full of the coconut, desiccated coconut to it as well. I'm going to keep the coconut aside. I'm just going to put some in a bowl because we are going to be rolling these balls just like I do with the protein balls. So I'm just going to put aside some of the coconut. Don't want to use very much extra because it already has quite a lot in it. A can of condensed milk. You can use the oat milk, but the biscuits are not vegan anyway. So because everybody in the family loves this one, I'm just going with what we've always used in the past, straight condensed milk. Condensed milk is a really easy ingredient to make as well. So in the event that I ran out of condensed milk over the pantry challenge period, I can make it from scratch. And I've got a video down below somewhere on making it from scratch as well. So we've got our condensed milk, 1 cup of coconut, 1 cup of mixed nuts. In my case, it's macadamia and pecans, or just straight pecans, which is what the recipe is, and 1 cup of crushed up biscuit crumbs. That's the main ingredients. We also need to have some cocoa, 1.5 tablespoons. So that's the cocoa going in. And then the alcohol. You can choose to use alcohol or omit it if you wish to. I'm going to be using the leftover of the Chivas Regal, tiny bit, maybe a tablespoon. And the recipe is for a tablespoon. So I'm assuming that that's what I've got. Oh, very close. 1 tablespoon, done. So that's using up, once again, something left over from a couple of years ago. So that's out of the cupboard as well. Time to mix. So in a clean bowl, I've got some coconut down the bottom, 2 teaspoons, simply taking my teaspoons of the mixture, working them together until you get a ball. Use your hands if you want to. It's up to you. But what I'm going to do is just measure out the balls first, drop them all in, and then I'll get mucky and dirty by doing it by hand. And then we're just going to shape and roll our balls. This does a lot of balls, about 50 odd balls from memory for the family, which is not enough. There's never any left over, ever. What does the recipe say? The recipe doesn't even say how many. It just says roll into powder, and that's it, you know. So from memory, it usually makes about 50. And when you've got 30 odd people for Christmas, that is so not enough. Now, once it's in the coconut, it's not so messy. Trying to get the mix out by hand, however, without using the spoons, it gets messy. So I definitely would recommend using a spoon and even just dolloping out a spoonful into the bowl, because having coconut in your hands is a lot easier to remove than it is that stickiness of those balls. Though the balls are beautiful, don't get me wrong. Just a lesson learned over the previous 30 plus years of making these balls. These will set up perfectly in the refrigerator. They're perfectly fine to have once they're chilled. They do really well frozen, so they're a good dessert, snack, treat to do in advance and have put away. So another of the Christmas treats put aside very simply. I'm going to fill that bowl up. Okay, last few balls. 52, 53, 4, 6, 8, 9, 60 balls. That's what that mix has made. And they are all going into the freezer, every one of them. So they're just too tempting. And we've got protein balls in the fridge. So they're definitely not needed, but if they are spied, then they will not last. And once you have one, you need to have 10. So, you know, they're just not going to last. They have to go into the freezer, these ones. And that's lesson learned many times over. But they can be eaten straight from the freezer. Just saying, not that, you know, they can be. Bit that's left over gets added to the top. And then this container just gets its lid put on and into the freezer she goes. So it's going to bring us to our last sweet treat for today. I think that's enough for one day. Radio. In my bowl, I need 500 grams of a semi-sweet or a dark chopped chip. These are semi-sweet chopped chips. It's 500 grams. This is one recipe that I'd kind of like to keep accurate because it won't set up otherwise. And I plan on dipping these in chocolate when they're cooled. Into the microwave. Takes about 3 minutes to melt these. Okay, that's our chocolate straight out of the microwave. 3 minutes. And that is well and truly ready. The bowl also has got heat in it as well, which is good because I can slow down and take my time, making sure it's well mixed through. So using a ceramic style bowl in the microwave helps you with your timing, so you don't have to rush because chocolate does set up pretty quickly once you change the temperature. All we need to do is add Nutella to this and get it into its molds. So for 500 grams of chocolate, it's 450 grams of Nutella. I know, it's a lot, but it is. And you end up with that gorgeous, who doesn't love a Ferrero Rocher, because that's the flavour we're going to end up with. So I'm just popping that on my scales, zeroing it, and I'm just going to empty out my Nutella. And hopefully there be enough. Can't add any liquid to this though, just a fair warning, it will set, it will cause it to seize. So you can't add any alcohol to this recipe unless it's a milk-based alcohol, and then even very small quantities where our sisters will not set up. You can add nuts though, and additional hazelnuts is lovely added to it in each of the molds. The molds that I'm going to be using are semi-spheres. Rightio, back onto that warm plate. Like I said, the bowl has still retained all of that heat, which is good because it is hot, and the heat from that chocolate will melt the Nutella through, giving us time to get it into a mold. Now, should this start to get too cold while you're doing this, you can put it back into the microwave. All right, that's my mold. Little spheres, little half circles. Right, I'm going to grab a hold of the cloth so I can hold on to this. And I'm just going to pour out, I'm going to say half for now, and then we'll see how we're going for space. So I've just got a cookie tray beneath it, and I've just inverted it because the mold is too large for a normal cookie tray. And that way I've still got a firm base behind it as well, so that it can set up in the fridge flat. A little bit extra from that. The remainder into another container. Okay, let's line this guy. Got baking paper. Just going to cut each corner. Needed. Each of those inside. And we'll just get all of this into our tray. Just going to use the offset palette knife, which is this guy. Just get it even. And then this one can also go into the fridge. This one can be sliced up into small pieces. And again, dipped into chocolate or not, just left whole, plain, if you choose not to dip them into chocolate as well. So we'll tap it down. It'll get out all the air bubbles and also give us a nice even surface, a level surface, so they're all the same size. Simple. Into the fridge that can go as well. And we are done for the day. Lots of sweet treats. I'll show you what these look like once they're being set up. That's our next lot. And we are done. Alrighty, we've had some time. They've chilled. Let's get the chocolate balls out of their molds. Cuties, aren't they? So the quickest way to get all of these out, because there's a lot of them, I can sit here and pop them out one by one, which is incredibly therapeutic to do this, or turn them over and just pop them all out in a container. So I've just flipped it over. I've still got the container that they're going in, and I'm just going to pop them all out. That way they're out really quickly, which means there's no time for them to start to melt or anything like that. Because the day is now warmed up, because it's been several hours since these were made. Just want to pop them all out, and then I can get them back into the fridge. And then later, when I temper the chocolate that I'm going to be using for the outside, they'll be nice and cold and ready to be added. And just like that, we're done. So that there is our half spheres, and they will be getting coated in chocolate. So meanwhile, they can go in the refrigerator. Going to temper the chocolate, which means I need to keep some aside because I'll be doing a seeding method. So about 20% you withhold. I'm going to use 250 grams in total. Of that, I want to keep aside 20%, which will be about 50 grams. Thereabouts. This is what I'm going to be melting. So that there is my saucepan of what was just boiling water, and I'm going to just put a towel around the top. Just keeps the steam in and stops it from coming back up my bowl. Just going to apply my bowl, pop my chocolate in, and let it do its thing. And that heat will be enough to melt those little chocolate buttons. Having the towel on also stops steam getting in, which would then cause my chocolate to seize, which is not a good thing. You definitely don't want chocolate seizing. Okay, so just going to get a spatula. And that's already starting to melt. Need to get my heat gun so that I can keep an eye on this temperature as well, because we don't want to get this too hot, but we definitely need it hot enough before we remove it. So it's already starting to melt, which is excellent. We don't want it to burn. We do keep moving it around because it happens pretty quickly. It takes about 3 minutes or so to come up to temperature. Every chocolate is different. This is a milk chocolate, not a dark chocolate. But it happens very quickly, and you've got a lot more control doing it with the water than you do if you're using a microwave. But if you want to use a microwave, use a microwave. And do it in bursts. But I'm just using the same method that I've always used, and I've got my reserve chocolate here. I'll get my heat gun. So the aim is to heat this up to about 50 degrees centigrade, about 120 Fahrenheit. We are then going to remove it from the heat, and I'm going to add my seed chocolate, which is my choc chips here, and that'll bring my temperature down until it gets to a working temperature. It's starting to cool. The aircon's been going throughout the day, which has been good, because when it was too warm earlier, I couldn't melt the chocolate. And I know that seems strange, but I couldn't do a test because it was above 27 degrees. So we need it, at a good, I'd prefer 20, if not cooler, but it's not going to get that. So that chocolate's already melted, which is awesome. Let's check its temperature. 49. It's pretty close. Doesn't take much. And we're ready to take it off. So I'm just going to keep moving it around just to ensure that it gets to the right temperature, because we want a nice crispy crunchy chocolate. We don't want one that is sticky and has a lower melting point. So tempered chocolate has a higher melting point, which means it can sit out of a refrigerator. It won't get fingerprints on it when the truffles have been made. Perfect. Right, so I can easily remove that because I've got my towel. I'm just going to give it a wipe. I'm going to remove my water out of my way, and we can start adding the seed chocolate into this container and chilling it down, because that's what we need to do. So we're just splitting all the different fats by tempering the chocolate. So I'm going to add my 20% that I'd reserved and get that melting by stirring it around. From what I was told, my cousin is a cake decorator. So when it comes to tempering chocolate, that's definitely something that I'll take her advice, keeping it moving as well. We want to chill this down to a working temp of about 32 degrees Celsius, I should say. Currently at 42, because we're going to be dipping the truffles that we've made into this. We can keep this warm once we rise the temperature, and once we drop the temperature, we can then bring this back to temperature anytime we need by, again, putting it over the warm water, or even putting it in the yogurt maker, the base of the yogurt maker, set at the right temperature. The yogurt maker currently has got sour cream in it, so I can't use that today. Normally I would. So I'm going to keep my bowl of water close by in order to bring this back up to temperature should it get too low. I said it is starting to cool down a little, but we still want this to be really easy to work with. So my chocolate truffles are in the refrigerator. They are the hazelnut flavoured ones from the Nutella. So by dipping them in this beautiful chocolate, when you bite through the crunchy outside, you'll end up with that nice soft truffle inside. Very similar to a Ferrero Rocher, but it doesn't have all of those nuts on the outside because I'm not going to that step as well. I just want the nice little crunchy balls. Still 42. Just taking it off that board. Just turn the board over, that side's cooler, just to cool it down faster. Okay, we're at 32.9. We're perfect. We're good. Just dip a spoon in our chocolate first. We're going to put that aside, and we will just see how that performs, whether or not that turns into a lovely coated chocolate spoon. It's already lovely and glossy, so now we just need to wait. So we'll just pop that aside for 10 minutes, and I will get the truffles and all the equipment that's needed. We can get going. Okay, we're going to go. So it is time. I've got my truffles here. I've got my hot chocolate here, and I'm just going to coat my truffle with the tempered chocolate. And then I'm just going to use a skewer to get that off my fork onto a baking tray and continue one at a time. I'm just going to mix the chocolate every now and then in order to keep it nice and evenly tempered. Just using the chopstick to take away all the excess chocolate. Easy. And then onto the baking paper, and we just keep going. We'll come back when that's full. Okay, that's our truffles. We're going to pop those into a cool place. The leftover chocolate is just going to put onto some greaseproof paper, parchment paper, and let's set up, and then I'll break it up, pop it into a bowl, and I can use that again next time. So I'll put it into a sealed container so none of it gets wasted. Okay, so that's our chocolate. I'm just going to spread it out and just let that set. And then I'll break it up and pop it into a container. Meanwhile, the rest of it can set as well. And that's about 70 of the chocolate's done. I haven't counted how many that mould does. Didn't really think about that. Yes, there's plenty. Aim for about 3 of each of the balls and chocolates and things like that for each family member. There's about 35. So that's what I sort of aim for. So 35 times 3, about 105 odd truffles need to be made. Just a few. Alrighty, into the fridge they go. That's my busy, sweet day over with for today. Back to making some more of these tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Bye now.